the tone, please record your message.
Hi, honey. It's your mom. I haven't heard from you. I'm just calling to see if you're still alive. I called your room, but you didn't pick up. I called the front desk, so maybe I should call all the dorms? I'm just calling to let you know I love you. Just take care of yourself, and please call me. Bye. And eat. Don't forget to eat.
Hey everybody, this is Undeclared. I'm your host, Pablo Rodriguez. You know, when you're in an interview, you always get that annoying question. Before you go, one last question. Please tell us some of your weaknesses. Now, as much as we might want to turn to them and say, first of all, that's not even a question. We don't do that. We all give our go-to answer of, well, I'm kind of a perfectionist. It's a great answer. I mean, what are you going to say? You know, I'm glad you asked. I have a massive drug problem. Whew, glad that's off my chest. No. Prospective employers want to find some way to distinguish one applicant from another, and asking impossible questions or difficult questions like that is one way to see who can think creatively. Now, while some people think that being a perfectionist is a good thing, that's not always the case. The problem is, when the new academic year starts, some faculty, staff, and students come in with overzealous goals of doing everything perfect. Everything must be right. You must be correct. You have to win. You have to get an A. Things are either 100% or they're not. And perfectionists are often their own worst enemy. The focus should be on doing your best, because being a perfectionist can lead to possible depression, lack of motivation, as well as fearing success because you don't want to make a mistake or else you're not perfect. Look at someone that you consider a role model. Picture them in your mind. As perfect as you think they are, they didn't start out that way.
I'm a horrible role model for students in many ways until a certain moment. Then I think I became a pretty good role model. All through school, I was a bad example in that I was very interested in my friends. I was interested in having fun. I had really close-knit circles of friends all the time, growing up. So that was all social to me, and sports and friends and running around, riding the bikes, all that stuff. So when I got to high school, I was not involved in anything whatsoever at all.
Not even like teams?
Nothing.
Really?
I think I played soccer sort of part of my first year just to try it out, but I would rather just play with my friends. So my high school experience was one of just doing the barest minimum. Somehow I got a job, I knew I wasn't 16 yet because my whole goal was I was going to earn enough money, save enough money, so that when I got my license, driver's license, when I turned 16, I'd be able to buy a car. Right. So, and I was going to buy a new car, but it was going to be the cheapest car you could get that was new. All right, that was my goal.
The gentleman speaking is none other than Jeff Carlson, graduate of Niles West High School and the current dean of the Rosary College of Arts and Sciences. Jeff's been the dean for the past 11 years. He's also a professor of theology. He works with faculty, staff, and students to enhance the quality of their undergraduate
majors as well as universities' undergraduate core curriculum, honors program, academic advising.
All right, you guys get it. He's a great role model is what I'm trying to say. But as you can hear, he didn't exactly start out that way, especially not when he applied to his first college, UIC.
I bombed out the first time. Okay. It was time to go to college, and my parents hadn't completed college, and my mother never went to college, so I didn't have a lot of role models on that. I decided to go to UIC, and the only reason I went was because my good best friend Jim Beck, with whom I went to Florida, and he bought a car too, he was going to go to UIC. So I said, what the heck, I'll go to UIC. So I went to college. That was the only one I applied to. I just went because he was going. The problem was I was working all these hours in the restaurant, too many hours. I was a commuter, and I would just stay up all night. I worked too many hours. Here's the problem. I would drive to class at UIC, arrive too late for class because I was up too late, park in the parking lot, and just say, all right, you know what? All right, I missed my first class. I'm just going to take a little nap and go to the second class, okay? So many times then, later in the day, my window would be pounded on by Mr. James Beck, my good friend who was going to UIC. Hey, idiot! You slept through the day, You didn't go to class. I was sitting in my car sleeping. And I don't mean to say I skipped out of most classes, but it happened enough to make me think, am I a serious student? I mean, what am I doing here?
That's a good question. What was he doing there? Fortunately for Jeff, he answered this question honestly, knowing that he wasn't doing much there. He didn't like the experience he was having at UIC, and he left. Later, Jeff took a second crack at college and attended DePaul. But this time, he promised himself he'd work hard, focus on his goals, and be successful. He made a commitment to doing his best. And that's something that he learned working at that diner that he mentioned before, JoJo's.
I worked for many years at the one on Dempster and Austin, which is now a Giordano's.
Oh, okay,
in Morton Grove.
yeah.
That was the one where I started and worked many, many years.
What shift did you work, or was it?
Lots, all kinds.
Oh, varied? It wasn't like one consistent?
No, it was varied. I mean, it was, sometimes it was the graveyard, shift.
Oh, really?
Overnight, and it was all kinds of shifts there. But it was really a positive experience.
What did you do there?
I started as a busboy.
Okay.
And but then over the years I did waiting on tables. I was a cook. I loved cooking. Cooking was a constant mass of concurrent duties flying at you all the time. You're always having to fly around. Your hands are flying. And there can be absolutely no wasted steps, no wasted movement. Everything you do has to be purposeful, instantly successful, and move on. And you have to work clean. You never make a mess. You can't just stand there and say, how do you make it? And so some of the greatest success and satisfaction I've ever felt in my whole life has been standing behind, the line in the kitchen with, 20 orders come up, and I'm down there with my 2 or 3, buddies, and we get it out, and it's perfect, and it's clean, and it's right, and it's, and we just look in success, and there was a great feeling of you would flick these orders back at the waitresses, you would just, and you were done. So great feeling of success, like I said, no wasted spaces, a sense of excellence in work. And there were just people you would admire watching in the restaurants who were good at that kind of work. They could just focus and be intense, and it's 1,000% right now on this thing. And then they move on to the next thing. And they don't have to sit there and wonder what they're doing. They just know.
Excellence in work. Jeff was definitely challenged as a line cook, but he met that challenge and learned a ton along the way. But what's most important is that the entire time he was sweating his butt off behind that grill, he was learning what it meant to be a part of a team, time management, and took pride in his work, and all while he was just doing his best. When we come back, can you hear him? Oh, can you hear the... Oh, those annoying pen clickers, man, on the show when we come back. All right, now I just Googled pet peeves list, and here are some top ones. Mouth noises, chewing with your mouth open, poor driving etiquette, putting others down, cell phone drivers, movie talkers, not washing your hands after the restroom. And I'm pretty sure that's on everyone's pet peeve list, and probably should be against the law. The naming of celebrity couples, when people copy you in every way, bossy leaders, people who interrupt you.
I want you... Stop. Listen. You know what?
When you're on a college campus, you can't always voice your pet peeves. If you're a student and your pet peeve is, let's say, a classmate who clicks their pen so frequently, it sounds like they're tap dancing. You don't walk up and slap the pen out of their hands. If you're a faculty or staff member and your pet peeve is someone asking a question that you literally just answered, you don't ask them to step into a time machine and travel back 9 seconds to hear the answer. You want to handle things like an adult. So our next segment allows college pet peeves to not only be heard, but also give some feedback. We spoke with Sister Marcy Hermsdorf. She's an assistant professor of English, a graduate of Providence High School, now Providence St. Mel, and a massive, diehard, over-the-top CSI fan. I even think she does a David Caruso impersonation.
He used to be an English teacher. I before E, except after C.
Now, this segment is about pet peeves, but that's not a good name. So we'll change the name of the segment every show with a different pet peeve. That being said, going along with our previous example of annoying pen clicking, without any further ado, a little drum roll, please. Thank you. Folks, grab a beverage, sit back, and take a listen to this week's segment called
Annoying Pen Clickers.
I'll give you two of my pet peeves. One is a student is absent from class, and the next time they see you, their question is, did you do anything in class while I was gone?
Oh my
And I want to
gosh.
say to them, no, for 50 minutes we sat and looked at each other and mourned your absence. And I think most professors don't like that question.
Yeah.
The second one that's a little annoying for me, who does a lot of grading of papers,
Yeah.
is if I give extensions, and for good reasons, I do give extensions on papers, but people have sort of pushed the envelope there till the last possible minute. They hand in a paper, and less than 24 hours later, they say, "Did you grade my paper yet?" Wait a minute. Didn't I just give you an extra week? Give me a break here.
Winning.
I have a life besides this paper you just handed in. You know, I've got 25 other students who are doing 25 other things, and this has gone to the bottom of my pile because you know, got the extensions. So it goes to the bottom of the pile. I expect people to be on time for class because I often give important information just at the beginning of class, sort of an overview of the week or something that's come up or whatever. So I'm really big on being there. I'd appreciate it if the students would do the reading that's assigned. That's always helpful, particularly if I'm going to have a discussion. It's really helpful. And in a literature class, it's really helpful if you do the reading. You know, it's nice when students look at me as if they're engaged and don't yawn in my face. Or put their heads down on the desk, you know, and go to sleep. Be sure you read a professor's syllabus carefully because it gives you lots of information, not only about what's going to happen day to day, but about the expectations that the professor has of you. Different professors expect different things. And so in some classes, tardiness is not going to be acceptable. In other cases, it is. There's no reason to get annoyed about that. It's just every professor has a list of expectations or a list of standards. And part of growing up is learning to be flexible. And so part of being flexible is knowing what you have to do in this class to stay on the teacher's good side and what you have to do in this class. And sometimes it's not the same. And the professors have the freedom to create the kind of class experience that works best for them. And so there needs to be some adaptability there. Sometimes on syllabi, like on my syllabus, because I'm an English teacher, I have a plagiarism policy on my syllabus. And if it's there, that means I expect you've read it. And if you do plagiarize, it's going to be worse for you because you should have known that because I put it there. And I also pretty much lay out my expectations about, for example, you know, are you on time for class? What happens if you are consistently tardy? It's going to affect your grade. All of that is on the syllabus. And I think for most professors, they lay down their expectations on those syllabi. The English department also has a set of protocols about, for example, how many times you can revise a paper, and those are department wide, and that's attached to our syllabi in the English department. So they need to read that too.
Did you ever catch anybody with plagiarizing?
Oh, of course.
It's him!
Of course, I catch people plagiarizing every semester, but I will say this, in most cases, it's not intentional. But because people don't understand the difference between paraphrasing and quoting. They don't know how to paraphrase, that's basically it. And so they think that because they've changed two little words here, now this is paraphrase, but that's not true. You have to learn how to paraphrase. But yeah, I've had people who have lifted stuff right off the internet and have pasted it into a paper. I've done that. We have a tool, though, called Turnitin, where we can find plagiarism. And you can Google stuff, too. You can Google phrases that sound strange, and you find out where they came from.
Wow.
So if students think that we're not savvy to these things, if they've got ways of cutting and pasting, we have ways of finding it out through the same technology.
Manny completed his bachelor's degree in business administration in 3 years, a year faster than the typical 4-year degree. Usually, I hear students wanting to do this for either financial reasons or sometimes because they're getting pressure from home. But in Manny's case, it was different.
It goes back to my parents. They were diagnosed with diabetes. when I started college. And one night I was with my dad, and he kind of like made a grunt. He's like, no, are you okay, Dad? He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know, my heart just sometimes like just does these funny things. And I'm like, you need to get that checked out. I didn't think about it much. Later on, he told me, he's like, I've been getting these pains. He's like, I don't know if I'll be around any longer.
Oh no.
And that to me was like a wake up call in a way. Kind of meant that my mom, she works, but she's not gonna make enough to carry out the family.
Sure.
And in the event that my dad would pass away, I had to prepare myself. I had to be in a place where if that were to happen, I can step up to the plate.
Yeah.
But my brother finished his college, so he can help me out with my sister and at home.
Now, there's peer pressure and pressure from home, but Manny's pressure was internal. He felt responsible for his family. He was a college student who should be focused on taking a full course load and not becoming head of the household. But he was ready to do whatever he could do in case anything happened to his parents. So began his path towards an accelerated graduation date. Now, before I go any further, I want you to have some perspective on how much time is actually in a week and how much time college students should be studying outside of the classroom. A week has 7 days, which totals up to be 168 hours. If you sleep 8 hours every night, that equals out to 56 hours a week. But come on, let's be honest. Most college students don't commit to 8 hours. Let's still be generous though and say, 6 hours every night. That's 42 hours a week and leaves you with 126 hours for that week. A regular 15 credit hour course load would mean that you're studying 45 hours a week outside of the class, plus the 15 that you're in the class. That leaves you with 66 hours for that week. Keeping it at a minimum, let's also say every day you take a half hour for all your meals, do a half hour of cardio, and only go out once a week for a few hours with some friends. Not likely, but go with it. Oh yeah, and you work part-time for 10 hours a week. That would leave you with 39 hours. Sound like a lot? Well, we haven't even talked about commuting, hobbies, or just family obligations and personal time. But even after doing those things, you still will have some hours left. All this based on a 15 credit hour course load, short meals, short workouts, and one part-time job. Now at one point, just to give you some perspective on Manny's situation, he took a combined 28 credit hours at 2 different colleges, held down 3 different part-time jobs, and he still had a GPA above a 3.0. That semester, if we go by that equation, Manny was studying 84 hours outside of the classroom, plus the 28 he was in it. That would leave him with only 56 hours a week, and he hasn't even slept a wink yet. Now, how hard does that 12 credit hour course load sound right about now? So what about pros and cons?
I think you get done early. I'm doing my master's right now. So that kind of like allows me to finish earlier. Since I'm going to like my master's in business administration, I might be making more than I would be making just with a bachelor's.
Gotcha.
So in terms of like that, it kind of like, it lets you save up more money for your 401k, for your whatever you want to do. One thing that I regret, and it's that I didn't get to do an internship. I wanted to do an internship, but because my financial situation at home and, just trying to get done early.
Right, didn't allow for it.
Yeah, my financial resources were being taken up by those like community colleges. When I graduated, I was 20, so I couldn't go out and party with the people I graduated with because they all went to bars or they went to like 21 and over restaurants or casinos. I couldn't go with them.
Over 21s tonight.
Well, I'm 21. Hey, we're all 21, aren't we, lads?
Other than that, it's kind of like, you're always working. There's no summers. It's very tough when, you look at your social life and you realize that you're only texting like 3 or 4 people. That's it. You're not like...
Because you're limited. Your community is limited to the people that you really need to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You rarely make friends. The only time you get to talk to people is in class, but even then you're limited because you're taking notes. I graduated in high school with 5 guys.
Yeah.
And those guys are still my guys. They would always do things like go to Wisconsin, go down to U of I with the other 2 guys, and I never got to do that.
Yeah, because you're too busy getting stuff squared away.
Yeah, and I feel like I lost some friends too. Your social life is really impacted by trying to finish early and working too, because your time is limited as to what you can do, and it takes a toll on you too. Like I gained a lot of weight. I was at 220, and now I'm like at 240. So it's kind of like 20 pounds there. And when I started, I was 200. Like, so it's kind of like, it does take a toll. I couldn't work out at all.
Yeah, no time.
No time at all. Like, there's really no time. And like, if I wanted to go on it, like, there's some people that went on a trip to Florida. I couldn't go to that trip because I had Saturday. Like, there were on the Saturdays, I would work on my online courses or like go to class. And then Sunday would be like, do homework that I didn't get to do during the week, catch up in the readings, and watch The Simpsons or something. Do something to get my mind off class.
Manny had confidence in himself, in his ability to focus on a very difficult goal and accomplish it by doing his best. He was very proud of his work and went back to his old high school to show them what he was able to do.
Initially, I had gone there just to like talk to them, visit them. I didn't really, graduation was not in my plan, in my future, to like go there and say, hey, I want to speak at your graduation. It was like, hey, I want to show you, that your efforts were paid off.
Yeah. So you're like a product from way back, or not that far back, but from back in the day, and you are now completed at an accelerated rate.
Yeah.
And your GPA was when you left?
Yeah, it was like a 3.3.
3.3.
So it was kind of low, but still,
Well, in comparison to what you were taking on, though, it was pretty good. How'd the speech go?
A lot of kids were like, a lot of kids knew my sister because my sister had just recently graduated. They were talking to her about like, they didn't know that about her brother.
Yeah.
And they said that it was really thoughtful. It was like 15 minutes. I talked a lot, but I talked about like, the kids that I grew up with that ended up turning to gangs are the same people still standing on those corners. Me, on the other hand, I'm graduating, I'm working, I'm traveling. The main message was you have to do what you need to do and get that done. When you commit to something like graduating early and you start telling your friends that you're going to graduate early and you don't do it, it's an embarrassment. It's kind of like a sign of weakness. But aside from that, don't worry about what your friends are going to say. It's more commit to it. If you're really going to think about it, commit to it. And it's kind of like a first step to like becoming an adult. Like you committed to something and you have to get it. Oh, well, this is my plan B. No. This is your plan. Your plan is to get this done. And if you have to come up with a plan B at the last minute, come up with a plan B. But don't be thinking about that you might not get it done. Because as soon as you start thinking that you might not get it done, it's when you start like this morning I had a hard time waking up. Because I'm like, I set my alarm for 6, but I can wake up at 7, still shower, and still have time to come in at work in time. But because I said, I can come in at 7, I started saying, I'm not going to wake up at 6. I'm going to wake up at 6:30. Went off. I'm going to wake up, it's 6:50. I ended up waking up again at 7:30. So I was late. So it's kind of like the same thing. If you're going to plan on graduating early, stick to that plan. Have like a plan B. But let it be like your last resort, like somewhere you don't want to be so it can push you to graduate early.
Manny is currently attending Dominican University and working towards his MBA in the Brennan School of Business. He works at the Apple Store as well as part-time at Dominican University's IT department. He's gotten a lot done in the 4 years he's been at DU, and we hope only more good things come his way.
This house is filled with memories, some so lovely and some so sad. The cracks in the walls and the lines in my face, I've read the late romantics.
Special thanks today to Dean Jeff Carlson, Sister Marcy Hermsdorf, Manny Izagita for being on the show, the lovely and talented Yolanda Rodriguez for her voicemail at the beginning of the show, the Rosary College of Arts and Sciences for their support. Our interviews today were made possible by the audio production assistance of Daniel Martin. Music today was Hammer Time by Squarehead, Yep by Jazar, Scraping Blue Terracotta, Waterloo Cannibals by Expressway, Ground Canyon by The Good Lords, and These Days I Wake So Early by Goodbye Kumiko. You can get all our information on our Tumblr page, undeclaredshow.tumblr.com. You can catch us on Facebook, facebook.com/undeclaredshow, on Instagram @undeclaredshow. You can email us at undeclaredshow@gmail.com. If you like the show, tell your friends, and if you didn't, tell your enemies. I'm Pablo Rodriguez, and we'll be back with another episode. But until then, keep making decisions, keep moving forward, and keep in mind, this is just some info on Undeclared.